Okay, I want to take a minute to go over the comma rules on the Unit 4 review. So as we're looking at this Unit 4 review, I'm going to be inserting in commas. I'm going to try and explain why we're putting commas where we're putting them. So on our first sentence here, we need to put in some commas because of the dates and the addresses. Remember, with dates, we need to put a comma after each piece in the date, including the last one. So February 29th, comma, and then 1940, comma. And that comma after 1940, that's the one that's probably the most likely one for us to maybe mistake or forget. We also need a comma on this address between Los Angeles and California. The next sentence, 1939 was an exceptional year for movies. In fact, film critics have labeled it the greatest year in film history. In fact is always going to be set off, but we want to check whether it's connecting two sentences or it's just interrupting one. Here we have a complete sentence up to movies and then a complete sentence after. So I'm going to want to put in a semicolon and then a comma after in fact. Furthermore, members of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences had a very large number of films to consider. The word furthermore is the parenthetical expression. It's always going to get set off from the sentence that it's with. It also comes at the beginning of this sentence, so even if we didn't remember that it was a parenthetical expression, we'd probably want to set it off because of it being an introduction to the sentence. Today, only 5 films are nominated for the year's Best Picture. However, 10 films were nominated. Again, today here, it introduces the sentence, so we want to set it off. We then have the word however, and here it is connecting two complete sentences, so I want to put a semicolon after picture and a comma after however. Okay, moving on to the next paragraph. Although all 10 films that were nominated that year are excellent movies, notice we already have a comma there. This dependent clause is introducing the main sentence that starts with the 2 best known of these films. Here we have the 2 best known of these films, The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind, remain popular for decades. This section here, The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind, it redescribes the 2 best known films of these films. Since 2 best known of these films was already specific, I'm going to set off this redescription with commas. You have seen at least one of these films, haven't you? Remember, when we use a short question like that, a short subject-verb sequence, if it comes anywhere but the beginning of a sentence, we're going to set it off with commas. If the sentence had been, haven't you seen, then there would be no commas after haven't you. It's a coincidence, isn't it? Again, we've got the same thing here, comma before and after isn't it, that both of these films were based on best-selling novels. The novel The Wizard of Oz is a children's story. Now notice we have a redescription here. The Wizard of Oz does redescribe novel, but the novel isn't specific enough yet. I don't know exactly which novel we're talking about yet. I need to say The Wizard of Oz for me to know which novel we're talking about. So I'm not going to set that off with commas. Its author, now here, this is kind of tricky. Its author, L. Frank Baum, its author, it could really only have one author. So here, I'm going to set L. Frank Baum off with commas. Created a fantasy about a young girl who's transported. This who is transported does redescribe young girl, but I don't know which young girl we're talking about yet. So this is the first specific information. So I'm not going to set it off. Baum got the name for his magical kingdom when he glanced at a file cabinet drawer that contained files from O to Z. Nothing there. Even people who have never seen the movie are familiar with the song Over the Rainbow, which was sung by Judy Garland. Now notice Over the Rainbow redescribes song, but song isn't specific yet. But this whole which was sung by redescribes Over the Rainbow, and since Over the Rainbow is the name of the song, I do need to set that which was sung by off with a comma. The movie Gone with the Wind closely follows the plot of the novel that inspired it. Again, notice Gone with the Wind redescribes movie, but movie's not specific yet. No need for a comma. Margaret Mitchell's Gone with the Wind, which won the Pulitzer Prize. So this which won the Pulitzer Prize for 1937 redescribes Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind is specific. It's a specific name for a specific book. So I'll put a comma after wind and a comma after 37. Its main character, Scarlett O'Hara. Again, Scarlett O'Hara, it's redescribing its main character. There can only be one main character, so this is a redescription of something already specific. Struggles to keep her family's plantation going as the South gradually loses the war. Vivien Leigh, the English actress portraying Scarlett in the film, redescribes Vivien Leigh. So I'll put a comma after Leigh. I'll put a comma after film. Won an Oscar as the Best Actress of 1939. An Oscar for Best Supporting Actress was won by Hattie McDaniel. Again, we redescribe Hattie McDaniel here. And that whole thing is what's redescribing her. So I'll put a comma right after McDaniel, and that's the only comma I need to put in there. However, although Lee's leading man in the film, Clark Gable, was nominated for Best Actor award. So we got to put a comma after however, because however is always set off by commas. Notice here it's at the beginning of a sentence, so there's no need for a semicolon there because we already ended that last sentence with a period. Although Lee's leading man in the next film, Clark Gable, was nominated for the Best Actor award, he lost to Robert Downey, the actor playing the role of an English private school teacher. So this redescription of Robert Downey, it's redescribing a specific person, so it needs to get set off with a comma. Goodbye, Mr. Chips, by the way. So we've got this by the way as a parenthetical expression. I put a comma before and after. Was also based on best-selling novel, as were Wuthering Heights and Of Mice and Men, two of the other nominated films. So again, two of the other nominated films redescribes these actually, specifically stated two films. So I put a comma after men. Three other nominated films featured famous actresses in romantic roles. Bette Davis, the star of Dark Victory, redescribes Bette Davis. And then the verb for that sentence is plays. So Bette Davis plays the role. So this part here, the star of Dark Victory, is just the redescription of Bette Davis, so it gets set off with commas. Plays the role of a wealthy woman who falls in love with the doctor treating her for a terminal brain tumor. Now notice we have this who falls in love part, which redescribes a wealthy woman. But we don't know what kind of wealthy woman we're talking about yet. It's not specific yet, so that who falls in love is not set off. Ninochka is a specific name, which starred the famous Greta Garbo. So that is being redescribed. So I set off that redescription with commas. Is a comedy about a Russian spy who is sent on a secret mission. So who is sent on a secret mission? Again, it redescribes Russian spy, but we don't know which Russian spy we're talking about, so no comma there. Who is sent on a mission to Paris where she falls in love with a French count. Irene Dunne starred in a movie whose theme is obvious from its title, Love Affair. So it can only have one title, and this sentence would read very strangely without kind of setting off Love Affair. So we'll put a comma after title. This film inspired two remakes. The 1957, so two remakes, and then we tell which ones they are. The 1957 An Affair to Remember, and the 1993 Sleepless in Seattle. In all, comma, because this is an introduction, three of the film's two lovers meet, part, and agree to reunite 6 months later. So we've got three things that they do. They meet, they part, and agree to reunite 6 months later at the top of the Empire State Building. So that's because that's a list. The two remaining nominees include a famous political film and a seminal Western. So nothing in that sentence. In the film Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, we have an introduction here. The whole part up to Washington introduces the main sentence, which is Jimmy Stewart plays the role of an idealistic, newly elected senator who must confront a powerful political machine from his home state. Now this who must confront, it does redescribe newly elected senator, but we don't know which kind of newly elected senator yet. so it's not set off with commas. Directed by the legendary John Ford, again we have a introduction. Stagecoach is the story of a group of passengers traveling through Arizona in 1880 in a stagecoach that is being threatened by Apache warriors. Nothing there. With all of these fine films in contention, comma, that's an introduction, you can imagine the suspense the audience felt when the MC announced, "Ladies and gentlemen," comma, this is a direct address, we're directly addressing the ladies and gentlemen, "we will now present the Oscar for the best production of 1939. So that's it. That's the unit review. So take a look at that. Take a look at the other videos. Take a look at the corrections for the other sections as well, and let me know if you have questions. So, again, please let me know if you have questions. The software's not working very well. It's kind of making my writing even worse than it normally is. All right, thank you.